I'd like to speak to, thank you for allowing me to speak today and give my testimony on behalf of the Heartbeat Bill. I consider this bill one of the most important and significant pieces of legislation in my lifetime. I grew up as a product of the 1960s. When I entered high school in 1960, I became active in the civil rights movement. During that time, we fought to have the rights of minorities be recognized, and with much struggle and legislation, we finally won. But winning was not easy. And when I was at Marquette University in Milwaukee, I remember the riots, the sit-ins, the killings, the continuous movement to have those rights recognized by the Supreme Court in all of America. The struggle evolved from my beginnings with Martin Luther King people in the 60s to the struggle to recognize a different minority, the unborn, in the 70s. To me, there is no difference. A minority can be any human being that has their rights taken away, whether they be African Americans, Latino, Vietnamese, special needs, women, or unborn. To me, my life has been dedicated to working for the rights of the most vulnerable, no matter who they are or what their condition. Today we gather to hear testimony on the Heartbeat Bill. If I can just give a couple of my credentials. I began and created Tri-County and Clark County Right to Life in Clark County, Ohio. I've worked intensely for the needs of special needs people, and I was a missionary in Mexico when I was in college. I've always considered myself an advocate for the minorities, and this has just been very, very special to me ever since we moved back to Ohio in 1970. Today we gather to hear this testimony, and the bill will reconfirm the essence and the essence and the existence of a human being at the time of a heartbeat. Just as we know that the end of the life is the end of that heartbeat. How simple is that? The thing that shows when life ends will help define when life begins. But our existing laws do not reflect that simple fact, just as the laws in the early 1800s do not reflect the humanness of slaves. So I'm here to ask you to correct that and to make our law in Ohio more congruent with nature and the rights that should exist for every human being, including the unborn. Today I'm honored to testify with women who have experienced the hand of and pain and suffering of abortion firsthand. They are women who come from all walks of life and circumstances. They are women who were in crisis, and the people that they turn to help them kill their child. They are women who have suffered the emotional pain of post-abortion syndrome, a condition which in my 35 years of working in the field, I have seen many, many times. Women who have been talked or coerced into the course of action that seems the solution at the time of crisis, but they have relived so many times, as you have heard, in the future after their abortion. Abortion is an action that can leave a woman cold and distant, make it difficult for her to have good relationships in her life, and forever searching to replace that child that she has lost. The women that have experienced this have stood up before you, and I would like to take a moment to ask every single woman in this hall who have been hurt by or have been affected by abortion to please stand. I speak for them, and I'm a counselor now, and I work with women on this all the time, and I beg you to please consider this bill. I would also like to I would like to introduce you to my son, John Paul. He was born on June 25th, and I know you can't see his picture very well because I have a very small picture of him, but he was born June 25th in 1988. I was 20 weeks pregnant. John Paul was 11 inches and 20 ounces in weight, and these are his shoes that we bought at Odd and his hat. Hang on, I have it in here somewhere. His hat. He used this in the whole time he was alive. The one thing that he had left was the development of his lungs, which Miami Valley Hospital injected surfactant into them, and they developed immediately. He had all of his fingers, his toes, his heartbeat, his brain, everything he needed. In any society, John would have been considered a human being. But if he had stayed in my womb, he would not have been classified for a human for another 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. Why? Because he was in my womb. He had a heartbeat, he had everything that made him viable except for time. But because Roe v. Wade and other interpretations of the law, he would not have been considered viable and thus not human. But he was there in the hospital, very, very human. I beg you to help other babies like John Paul, who have not had a chance to be born and live without the threat of abortion because they're not born yet. Please make our laws consistent and make heartbeat the status that will allow a human to become classified as a human, that his and her life may be protected. You know what the right thing is to do. Now I ask you to do this and help our society protect the most vulnerable in our society, the unborn. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Banaszak, for your testimony.